Hello everyone, this is Sarita V, Assistant Professor, Department of Basic Sciences and Humanities, Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology. Welcome to the second session of Investment Analysis and Capital Budgeting from the fifth module of Business Economics. Let us just have a quick look on the topics we have learned so far. We went through what is time value of money. We discussed about investment analysis and capital budgeting in general. Also, we discussed about the nature, features, and importance of investment decisions. And we just gave an introduction on the types of investment decision. In this session, I will be discussing on one of the two sets of evaluation criterions and the decision rules associated with it. Now, before going into detail on the methods of capital budgeting, that is these evaluation criterions, let us once more discuss what capital budgeting is. So coming back to capital budgeting, let's take an example. Suppose a manager wants to choose a project which gives a rate of return which is more than the cost of financing the project. For this, the manager has to evaluate the worth of the project in terms of costs and benefit. The benefits are the expected cash inflows from the project, which are discounted against a standard, generally the cost of capital. Hence, capital budgeting is the process of deciding whether or not to invest in a particular project, as the investment possibilities may not be rewarding. These methods provide the company a set of norms on the basis of which either it has to accept or reject the investment proposal. Hence, we can say that capital budgeting appraisal methods are techniques of evaluation of investment proposal which will help the company to decide upon the desirability of an investment proposal depending upon their relative income generating capacity and rank them in order of their desirability. Now let us start discussing the types of evaluation criterions, that is the capital budgeting techniques. There are two evaluation criterion or two methods of capital budgeting. They are non-discounted cash flow criterion and discounted cash flow criterion. From the name itself, these two are different from the way they evaluate different investment opportunities. Non-discounted cash flow criterions are also called as traditional methods. These methods are based on the principles to determine the desirability of an investment project on the basis of its useful life and expected returns. They include payback period, discounted payback period, and accounting rate of return. Among these, the discounted payback period will be discussed after discussing the discounted cash flow criterion in the end. The discounted cash flow methods, they are based on the concept that a rupee earned today is more worth than a rupee earned tomorrow. These methods take into consideration the profitability and also the time value of money. They include net present value or NPV, internal rate of return or IRR, profitability index or PI. There are two major differences between these two methods, that is related to time value of money. Let's take the case of non-discounted cash flow method. It do not take into account the concept of time value of money, which is a significant factor to determine the desirability of a project in terms of present value. If you take the case of discounted cash flow method, they take into account the concept of time value of money, which is again a significant factor to determine the desirability of a project in terms of present value. Now, desirability of a project means whether the manager or the firm can accept the project or reject the project. Hence, let us once more consider what is time value of money with an example. Time value of money and present value of money. The main idea of considering the time value of money is that a rupee that you receive today can be invested in such a way that you will have more than a rupee at some future time. Here, the expected return from an investment is converted from future value to present value using a discount rate. Now, I hope that you remember what a discount rate is. which we have already discussed in the previous session. Now coming to this example, an amount of rupees 30,000 is invested in the year 2000 and it is supposed to generate the year-end return, say rupees A, rupees B, rupees C, rupees D and rupees E till 2005. Here we are converting the future value into present value terms. That is, in our example, for example, we are converting the value of return in 2004 into rupee value in the year 2000 with the help of this discounting rate. This is done in order to see whether it is profitable to invest in this project or not. That is, to compare whether he will get more than 30,000 in present value terms. Now, before discussing the capital budgeting techniques, we have to be clear with different terms which we actually use throughout these methods. The first one is cash outflow. It is the amount of cash that a business disperses. For example, I am an investor. I am investing 1 lakh rupee in a venture and I am expecting a good return in the future. So this 1 lakh rupee which I have invested, that means my initial amount, it is referred to as cash outflow. Next is cash inflow. It is the money going into a business. In our example, I have invested 1 lakh. I am expecting a good return in future. For example, for the coming 10 years, I am expecting a good return. So, the initial amount, that is 1 lakh, it is cash outflow. Now, take the case of the second year, third year, fourth year. If I am getting a good amount of return on this 1 lakh, that return is referred to as cash inflow. Next term is even cash inflow. If this cash inflows which I am receiving is the same amount, that means for the coming 10 years, every year I am receiving 20,000 rupees, which means the cash inflows are of the same amount. Such kind of cash inflows are referred to as even cash inflow. So, uneven cash inflow will be just the opposite, because I am not getting 20,000 every year. I am getting different amounts like 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 20,000, 10,000, etc. Such kind of cash inflows are referred to as uneven cash inflow. So, the return of investment in every year will be the same amount in the case of even cash inflow, and the return of investment in every year will be different amount in the case of uneven cash inflow. Next is depreciation. As you all know, it is a reduction in the value of an asset over the time due to the wear and tear. Next is scrap value. Scrap value, it is the expected or estimated value of an asset at the end of its useful lifetime period. Last one is salvage value. Salvage value, it is the amount of assets cost that will not be a part of depreciation expenses during the years that the asset is used in the business. That means, for example, if a machine is actually costing 1 lakh rupee, the next year it will not be costing 1 lakh rupee. Certain amount of depreciation expenses will be deducted from it. The value that you receive after deducting this depreciation is referred to as salvage value. So I hope all these terms are clear for you. These are some of the terminologies that you should be very thorough with before learning the non-discounted cash flow criterions. Now let us discuss the first and one of the earliest methods of capital budgeting, that is payback period. The payback period is the amount of time, usually measured in years, to recover the initial investment in an opportunity. For example, suppose I am investing rupees 50,000 in a venture. Using payback method, I can clearly calculate the exact time period at which I will receive my initial investment, that is rupees 50,000. Therefore, this method will only tell me the due date on which I will receive my initial invested amount, that is rupees 50,000. Two types of calculations are associated with payback. One is payback for even cash inflow and the other is payback for uneven cash inflow. I hope you remember the difference between even and uneven cash inflow, which we have already discussed in the previous slide. The formula for the two types are different. Hence, when you try to solve a question where payback method has to be used, your first task will be to identify whether the cash inflows are even or uneven. Only then you can actually apply the formulas. Let us take the case of even cash inflow. For even cash inflow, the formula for calculating the payback period is the initial investment divided by annual cash inflow, that is C0 divided by C. If the project generates constant annual cash inflows, the payback period can be computed by dividing the cash outlay by annual cash inflow. The initial investment refers to the total amount of investment that a firm is initially investing in a project. Since the cash inflows are assumed to be the same over the years, the annual cash inflow is taken on an average. For every capital budgeting technique, as we have already discussed earlier, there will be always a decision rule or acceptance rule associated with it. In the case of payback period for a single project, if the calculated payback is less than the standard payback set by the management, you can accept the project. As a ranking method, it gives highest ranking to the project which has the shortest payback and lowest ranking to the project which has the highest payback period. That is when you compare two projects. The project with lowest payback is preferred. Now let us work out an example. Assume that a project requires an annual outlay of rupees 50,000 and yields annual cash inflow of rupees 12,500 for 7 years. You have to calculate the payback period for the project. Now, the initial amount they are investing is rupees 50,000. So, the initial investment or C0 will be rupees 50,000. Now notice that the annual cash inflow is rupees 12,500 for 7 years, which means for every year, that means till the 7th year, you will be receiving 12,500 in an even manner. So this is an example of even cash inflow where we have to apply the payback method. Now what is the formula for payback? Payback is equal to initial investment divided by annual cash inflow. The initial investment is 50,000 and the annual cash inflow is 12,500. Now when you divide 50,000 divided by 12,500, you will get the answer as 4 years. So this 4 years is a calculated payback, and when you look at the question, the standard payback set by the management is 7 years. So here the calculated payback is less than the standard payback. Hence, the acceptance rule is we can accept the project. Now let us consider an investment where the cash inflows are uneven or different. I hope you remember what the payback is. This method will tell you exact time period in which you will get the exact amount you have invested. In the case of uneven cash inflow, we can identify the exact time period by taking the cumulative cash inflows until we get the exact amount of the invested amount. Let us understand this with the help of an example. Suppose that a project requires a cash outlay of rupees 20,000 and it generates cash inflow of rupees 8,000, rupees 7,000, rupees 4,000 and rupees 3,000 during the next 4 years. What is the project's payback? So here you can see that the initial investment is rupees 20,000 and we have cash inflows for 4 years. Say in the first year the cash inflow is 8,000, in the second year the cash inflow is 7,000, etc. The lifetime of the project is 4 years. Now we want to know within this 4 years of time at what time period we will get exactly rupees 20,000. So let us solve this problem here. In the table, we have three columns. First column we have year, second column we have cash inflow, and third column we have cumulative cash inflow. As I told you, since the cash inflow is uneven, it is not possible to calculate the payback directly. We have to find the cumulative cash inflows. So, coming to the third column, using the amounts in the second column, we have to calculate the cumulative cash inflow. So, in the first year we have 8,000, second year we have 7,000 plus 8,000, that is 15,000. In the third year we have 19,000 and in the fourth year we have 22,000. Now remember, we need to know the time period where we receive only the initial investment of 20,000. So, from the cumulative cash inflows, identify the amount of cash inflow which is nearer or equal to 20,000. So, if you go through the third column of cumulative cash inflow, you will find rupees 19,000 in the third year, which is nearer to rupees 20,000. So, we have almost got our answer, but we need to identify the time period at which we will receive exact amount of our initial investment, that is 20,000. So, now we have only 19,000 at the end of the third year. We need rupees 1000 more, which we will get only in the fourth year. But in the fourth year, we are getting 22,000 rupees. So, we have to calculate how many months in the next year will fetch us rupees 1000. So, 1 year equal to 12 months. So, we need to know out of this 12 months at what time we will receive rupees 1000. Because adding this 1000 to 19,000 will give us exactly our initial investment, that is 20,000. To calculate, let us see the cash inflow in the fourth year, that is rupees 3,000. If we divide rupees 1000 by 3,000 and multiply it with 12 months, we arrive at a payback period. So we received rupees 19,000 in the third year and we receive rupees 1,000 within 4 months of the succeeding year. Hence, the answer is 3 years and 4 months. Now, can we accept the project? Look at the payback given in the question. It is 4 years. Now, look at the calculated payback. It is 3 years and 4 months, which is less than the given payback. Hence, we can accept the project. Now let's summarize the payback period by going through some of the advantages and disadvantages of payback period. Let us take the advantages first. First of all, it is very simple to understand. Second, it can be computed on the basis of accounting information available because we are not actually including any other amount into this payback period. It does not involve any cost for computation since it is very simple to calculate. Now coming to disadvantages, it does not take into account the time value of money. As we all know, in both these examples, we have never converted a future value of money into present value terms. Hence, this is not actually taking into consideration time value of money, which actually becomes a major drawback of payback period. It fails to consider the discounting rate. I hope you remember what discounting rate is. It helps us to convert the future value of money into present value terms. Last one, it only considers the year of return of cash outflow. It is not actually considering what happens to the other returns. The next method of capital budgeting is average rate of return. Average rate of return is one of the most important method under non-discounted cash flow methods. It gains its importance because it calculates this investment decision from income and investment side. In short, the average rate of return it is called as ARR. The average rate of return takes into account the entire economic life of a project, and also it measures the profitability of a project from the income side as well as from the investment side. Now, when you define ARR, it is the accounting rate of return, that is, it is a ratio of the average after-tax profit divided by average investment. The average investment would be equal to half of the original investment if it were depreciated constantly. I told you that we calculate ARR or average rate of return from income and investment side, and hence we need to find the average income and average investment associated with the project. That is, average rate of return is equal to average income divided by average investment into 100. ARR is expressed in percentage. Now let us see how average income and average investment is calculated. Now, how can we calculate average income? The formula for calculating average income is equal to average cash inflows divided by number of years. Now, While arriving at average cash inflows, you need to look into the ARR question given to you. If in the question it is given that these cash inflows are before depreciation amount and tax rate as well as interest rate, you have to deduct the depreciation, tax and interest rate from the given cash inflows. If in the question it is said that the cash inflows are given after depreciation, tax rate and interest rate, then you need not actually deduct these amounts from the cash inflow. You can directly add the cash inflow and divide it by number of years in order to arrive at average income. But if it is given as before depreciation amount, tax rate and interest rate, you have to deduct those amounts and then only you can find the average cash inflows. Now, associated with the calculation of average investment is the calculation of depreciation. So how can you calculate depreciation? In ARR method, depreciation by straight line method is being used, which is equal to cost minus scrap value divided by estimated life. Cost in the sense the initial investment, scrap value the value of that particular project at the end of its lifetime period, estimated life will be the total number of years. Now we know how to calculate average income and depreciation. Let us see how we can calculate average investment. Before calculating the average investment, we have to calculate the total investment. The total investment is equal to salvage value plus 1 by 2 into initial cost minus salvage value. Now I hope you remember what salvage value is. It is the actual value of the investment every year minus its depreciation. Now remember one thing, while calculating ARR for any kind of project, the cost of the project for every succeeding year will be the salvage value of the project in the previous year. Now why? Because every year the particular project or the value of the project will actually depreciate. That amount has to be deducted from the cost of that particular project. So that is why the cost of the project for every succeeding year will be the salvage value of the project in the previous year. So now we know how to calculate average income and depreciation. Now let us see how can we calculate average investment. The formula for calculating average investment is investment divided by estimated life. So coming to the decision rule or acceptance rule. As I told you, ARR is expressed in percentage. So if the calculated ARR is greater than the given ARR, we will always accept the project. So this method will accept all those projects whose ARR is higher than the minimum rate established by the management and reject those projects which have ARR less than the minimum rate. This method would rank a project as number 1 if it has highest ARR, and the lowest rank would be assigned to the project with lowest ARR. This is with respect to when you receive two types of projects and you have to decide which is the best. So you will actually select that particular project with highest ARR. Let us try to understand the average rate of return using an example. A project will cost rupees 40,000. Its stream of earnings before depreciation, interest and taxes during the first year through 5 years is expected to be rupees 10,000, rupees 12,000, rupees 14,000, rupees 16,000 and rupees 20,000. Assume a 50% tax rate and depreciation on straight line basis. The given ARR is 13%. So here in the question, we have 40,000 as our initial investment and the cash inflows for 5 years from 10,000 to 20,000 is given as before depreciation, interest and taxes, which means we have to deduct the depreciation rate as well as the tax rate given in the question from these cash inflows, and then only we can arrive at average income. So let us see how we can calculate ARR using this question. Let us summarize the variables given in the question. The cost of the machine is given as 40,000. Estimated life or N is given as 5 years. The ARR set by the management is 13%. The cash inflows, which is uneven, for 5 years is given as 10,000, 12,000, 14,000, 16,000 and 20,000. Remember, the cash inflows are given before interest, depreciation and tax rate. Now, the formula for calculating ERR is average income divided by average investment into 100. As I told you, it is expressed in percentage. Average income is equal to average cash inflow divided by number of years. In this particular question, while calculating the average cash inflow, first we have to deduct depreciation rate and tax rate from all those cash inflows from 1 to 5 years. Investment is calculated as salvage value plus 1 by 2 into initial cost minus salvage value. Average investment is equal to the total investment divided by the estimated life. Let us next calculate the depreciation rate. Depreciation by straight line method, the formula is cost minus scrap value divided by estimated life. So here we have cost as 40,000, scrap value which is not given, so we will write 0. Estimated life is 5 years. So depreciation is equal to 40,000 divided by 5, that is 8,000. Now let us calculate average income. Look at the table. In the first column we have year 1 to 5. Second column we have the cash inflows given in the question. Now as I told you, in the question it is given before depreciation, tax rate and interest rate. So from all these individual cash inflow, we have to deduct the depreciation rate and then the taxation rate. So first let us deduct depreciation rate. So taking the first year and the first year cash inflow 10,000, you have to deduct 8,000, that is our calculated depreciation, from 10,000. So we will get 2,000 rupees. Taking the second year, the cash inflow is 12,000. So by deducting 8,000 from 12,000, we get 4,000. Take the case of third year, the cash inflow is 14,000. So from 14,000, we will deduct the depreciation rate 8,000 and we get 6,000. Again coming to fourth year, we have 16,000. From 16,000 we will deduct the depreciation and we will get the result as 8,000. Finally coming to the fifth year, that is 20,000 cash inflow. When we deduct 8,000 from 20,000, we will get 12,000. So we have the cash inflow which where the depreciation rate has been deducted. Now this is not complete because in the question we have said that it is before taxation rate, which means we have to deduct the tax rate. Now the tax rate is 50%. So it is very easy here. We have to find the 50% of the new cash inflows, that is 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 and 12,000. So taking the first year, the new cash inflow 2,000, if we are deducting the 50% tax rate, it will be 1,000. Taking the second year, the new cash inflow 4,000, if we are deducting the 50% tax rate, it is 2,000. And so we will get 3,000, 4,000 and 6,000 for the years 3, 4 and 5 respectively. Now we have the original cash inflow receipt after depreciation and after taxation. So the actual cash inflow after depreciation and after taxation is given in the fifth column, that is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 and 6,000 for the year 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 respectively. The next step is to sum up all these actual cash inflow after depreciation and after taxation. So we will get a accumulated sum of 16,000 as total income. The calculation is not yet complete because we need average income. Now what we have found out is the total income received. Now what is the formula for calculating average income? Average income is equal to total income divided by number of years. So average income, the total income is 16,000. Number of years is 5. So we will get 16,000 divided by 5 as 3,200. That is our average income. Now let us calculate our average investment. For calculating average investment, we have to first calculate the total investment. Investment is equal to salvage value plus 1 by 2 into initial cost minus salvage value. Average investment is equal to this total investment divided by estimated life. So we have salvage value is equal to initial cost minus depreciation. So first we have to find out the salvage value for 1 to 5 years. And we have the depreciation calculated as 8,000. So using all this information, let us calculate average investment. Now let us calculate average investment. Before that, we will calculate what is total investment. In the table, year is given from 1 to 5, salvage value is being calculated and investment is also being calculated. Let us take the case of salvage value. The formula for calculating salvage value is cost minus depreciation. So, for the first year, the cost is 40,000. We have already calculated the depreciation amount as 8,000 and hence the salvage value for the first year is 40,000 minus 8,000, that is 32,000. Now look at the second year. Second year, the cost is given as 32,000. But remember in the question it was given that the cost is 40,000. So here there is a clarification. The value of the machine actually is getting depreciated year by year. The machine will not cost 40,000 every year. That is why the salvage value of the first year is taken as cost of the machine in the second year. So in the second year, we will use the cost of the machine as salvage value of the first year. So in the second year, the salvage value is given by 32,000 minus 8,000, 24,000. Now coming to third year, we will use the 24,000 as the cost of the machine in the third year. So 24,000 minus 8,000 will give 16,000 as salvage value for the third year. In the fourth year, again the salvage value of the third year is taken as the cost of the machine. That is 16,000 minus the depreciation amount 8,000 will give salvage value as 8,000. In the fifth year, again the fourth year salvage value, that is 8,000, is taken as the cost of the machine. So 8,000 minus 8,000 depreciation will give 0, which means at the end of the lifetime period there is no salvage value. Now using this salvage value we can calculate investment. In the first year we have the formula, that is investment is equal to salvage value plus 1 by 2 into initial cost minus depreciation. So we have the salvage value for the first year already calculated as 32,000 plus 1 by 2 into the initial cost of the machine. Yes, it is 40,000 in the first year minus salvage value, that is 32,000, which will give us 36,000 as investment in the first year. Now let us take the case of the second year. Now remember, the salvage value for the second year is 24,000, but the cost of the machine in the second year will be the salvage value of the first year. So that is why we are taking 24,000 plus 1 by 2 into 32,000 minus 24,000, that is equal to 28,000. In the third year, we have salvage value as 16,000 plus 1 by 2 into the cost of the machine in the third year will be the salvage value of the second year, that is 24,000 minus the salvage value of the third year, 16,000, that is 20,000. In the fourth year, we will have salvage value as 8,000 plus 1 by 2 into cost of the machine in the fourth year will be the salvage value in the third year, that is 16,000 minus 8,000, that is 12,000. In the fifth year, since there is no salvage value, we will write it as 0 plus 1 by 2 into the salvage value of the previous year will become the cost of the machine in the fifth year, that is 8,000 minus 0, which will give us 4,000 as investment in the fifth year. Now summing up all these investment, 36,000, 28,000, 20,000, 12,000, 4,000 together, we will get total investment as 1 lakh. Now let us calculate. Using this 1 lakh, we can calculate average investment. So now let us calculate the average investment. The formula for calculating average investment is equal to total investment divided by estimated life. Here we have already calculated 1 lakh as the total investment and the estimated life or number of years is equal to 5. Hence average investment is equal to 1 lakh divided by 5, that is equal to 20,000. So hence we have average investment as 20,000. Now let us calculate average rate of return. So for calculating average rate of return, the formula is average income divided by average investment into 100. As I told you, average rate of return is always expressed as percentage. So we have average income as 3,200, average investment as 20,000. So hence ARR or average rate of return is equal to 3,200 divided by 20,000 into 100, which will give us ARR as 16%. Now 16% is actually greater. That is, the calculated ARR 16% is greater than the given ARR, that is 13%. Hence, we can accept the project. So I hope this session on non-discounted cash flow techniques are clear to you. In the next session, we will discuss discounted cash flow criterion, and also we will discuss the discounted payback method. Thank you.